hiccup that we just had a few minutes ago. Welcome back to BTV. Welcome to Vibrant Morning. I'm your host Gagi Isaiah. Like I said earlier, remember Vibrant Morning brings you newspaper review, and especially what is in the People Daily newspaper. It will be your turn also to grab your copy and read more comprehensively as we just give you a review of what is in the People Daily newspaper. Today my co-host Lennox Odede is not with me. He's gone out to get us more of what's happening in Migori County, and the same with Coco, who is also not in. But this morning we are grateful because we have goodies of what is in the People Daily newspaper. Remember, you can follow us on YouTube, BTV Kenya. You can follow us on YouTube, BTV Kenya. Please grab a copy and read more comprehensively of what is in the People Daily newspaper. You can also subscribe our YouTube page and let us know where we are reaching you from by leaving a comment. You can also visit also on Facebook page Blackman TV. You can also visit us on TikTok and also on Instagram, BTV Kenya. Remember, BTV, your home live TV. Now this morning, looking into what we have in the People Daily newspaper, on the cover page of the People Daily newspaper, now we see the big story of the day is where the rich spend their money. That's a story which is there on page 6 of the People Daily newspaper. Where do the rich people spend their money? You can grab your copy and read. Remember, People Daily newspaper is a free newspaper. Just reach to your vendor and grab that piece of paper and read more comprehensively. Now, part of what is forming what is in the People Daily newspaper on matters of finance bill, why Kenyans must tighten their belts. Remember, the budget is about to be out and Kenyans must tighten their belt. We are going to give you a brief of that story also, and also we also see another big story here. Teacher Service Commission unable to put intern teachers on payroll. Now that's also a story that is there also on page 4. Now, having given you the highlights of what's on the People Daily newspaper cover page, we have to jump into the first page of the People Daily newspaper. That is MPs now query why CBK, Central Bank of Kenya, is dominated by two tribes, that is the Kalenjin and the Kikuyu. Now the CBK was put to task by the Senate to give accounts to explain why the Central Bank of Kenya does not meet the standard on matters of equitable employment. That is, Central Bank of Kenya governor taken to task why Kikuyu and the Kalenjin make half of the employees of Central Bank of Kenya. Now that's a story. I believe you can grab your copy and read. It is a story written by Rollins Otieno. Please read more comprehensively on that story. Now moving on to page 3. Like I said earlier, I'm just going to give you the brief of what is in the newspaper. Moving on to page 3. This is amazing, and this is a story that I believe is going to inspire all the counties across the Republic of Kenya. That is Kiambu, maternal death, all wards. Story by Matthew Ndungu. In a remarkable achievement of maternal health care, all public hospitals in Kiambu County reports zero maternal death across their maternity wards in the month of April. Now this has been a challenge to medicals, especially to health department across the county, but we see that now Kiambu County government is able to fight back and able to realize the dream of zero maternal and childbirth that is in the whole of Kiambu County. Please, you can also make sure you read more comprehensively that story. It is such an inspiring story. Now we move to page 4, where we see Teacher Service Commission will not be able to employ interns on fixed terms pay CBA. Now, that's also a story which we said there, and the story says that the Commission also does not have sufficient budgetary to increase salaries or honor the negotiations for more than 3,000 teachers, a story by Mercy Mwai. Now, the 20,000 intern teachers employed by the Teachers Commission will have to work on a temporary basis, or at least 2 years after commission was denied budgetary allocations to employ them on permanent and pensionable terms. Now, those teachers who are employed by Teacher Service Commission or by the government on internship basis, they will be able to be employed permanently. As because of that, you can also check on that story. It is a story that touches on what is really happening. Now, I want to combine that story with a story which is also on page 5 of the People Daily newspaper. Education budget crisis looms following massive reductions. That is still on matters of education. Now, we see Education PS Julius Bitok tells MPs Treasury made cut consulting the department, without consulting the department. A story by Mercy Mwai. Millions of learners primary, junior and senior secondary schools are facing crisis after education budget was reduced by a whopping 62.01 billion. Now, that's also, we see that's also going to affect education. Now, documents tabled before members of parliament point to an impending disaster following cut to funding for school feeding programs, examination, invigilation, and construction of lab and classrooms for junior secondary school learners. Now, that's also a story you can also read more comprehensively. Now, we move back to page 4, where we also have another story by Rollins Otieno, governor on spot over stalled ECDE classrooms. Now, that's still on matters of education, stories by Rollins Otieno. Now, we see senators yesterday put Richo governor Dr. Eric Mutai on spot over stalled early childhood development and education classroom projects, some of which have remained incomplete since the onset of devolution. This even as lawmakers express concern over high cost of construction and poor state of abandonment of numerous projects. Now, that is also a story touching on matters of education. Please read more comprehensively. Just reach to your vendor and take your copy. Now, still on the same, we move to page 5. On page 5, where we see CJ opens Kisumu court to boost justice delivery. That's a marker story by Kefas Otieno. Now, Chief Justice Martha Koome has inaugurated a specialized city court in Kisumu aimed at expediting cases related to municipal governance, including default payment, unpaid fees, and violation of city bylaws. You can also check that story and read more comprehensively. I feel a story, Nyamira Assembly leadership role persists. Over a period of time now, Nyamira has been faced with a lot of wrangles on matters to do with leadership of Nyamira County. Story by Evans Nyakundi. Please read more comprehensively on that story. And moving on to page 6. In page 6, we see clinical officers picket for better employment terms. Clinical officers picket for better employment terms. A story by Mercy Kachenge and Christopher Kisemei. Now, for the first time, the government has indicated it will absorb universal health coverage UHC staff into permanent and pensionable arrangements as even a section of health care workers marched and camped outside Afia House, the Ministry of Health headquarters. You can also check that and read on that story. It is a story that is touching on matters that affect us directly. Now, on page 7, survey shows 60%. The survey now shows 60% of homes are owned. 60% of homes are owned. Now, on what points to affordable housing become a white elephant? Analysis shows households in rural areas had higher home ownership rates. A story by Samuel Karaoke. You can also check and read this story. As the state's affordable housing program gathers pace across the country, new government data shows that 6 in every 10 households in the country are home owned. Now that's a plus. You can check on that story and also read. And also we see race to end maternal and newborn mortality begins in Bungoma. That's also a story you can also check on, where we see a story by Tony Wafula. Now, in a quest to achieve Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) target by 2030 to reduce maternal death to less than 70 per 100,000 live births and neonatal mortalities to less than 12 per 1,000 lives birth, Kenya, like other African countries, is facing significant challenges in development journey. Now that's also a story which I believe is of significant. Read that story more comprehensively. And also we see SUPKEM hit out at opposition over IEBC. Now we know the stories by Samuel Karaoke and Christopher Kipkemei. Now Muslim clerics have criticized opposition leaders for rejecting the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission's nominee proposed by the President William Ruto. Now when it comes to matters to do with the sorry for that. Now when it comes to matters to do with IEBC, we know there's been a lot of challenges on who was and the nomination after the president did the nomination of whom he believed. Now we see it has been faced with a lot of challenges, as many people did not support the nomination. But we see now the SUPKEM now comes out to say that the Supreme Council of Kenya Muslims told leaders off for faulting the nomination on the grounds that the president did not consult them. Now you can also check on that. Matters to do with IBC are very crucial and sensitive. You can check out and read more comprehensively. Now farmers in court over sugar farms leasing. You can also check that. Now MP says bid to lease Chemelil and Muhoroni sugar companies is shrouded in secrecy. As a story from the People Daily. Now we see farmers are out and going to court to petition the leasing of the Chemelil sugar and Muhoroni sugar company. You can also check that and read of that story and much of what is there. Call for reforms to protect children with disabilities from online abuses. You can also check that story and read more comprehensively. Sorry for that, but you can also check that and read more comprehensively on that story. Now as we continue, we move to I'm going to skip page 10. And look at some other pages on what we are having on some other pages. That is on page 13. Let us jump to page 13. Court holds Duale NHIF bill steam operations. Now, Duale and the Minister of Health and the task force members barred from compiling any report or recommendations. You can also check that now. Health Yet Secretary Aden Duale has suffered a significant legal setback after the High Court suspended the operations of a special committee he constituted to audit more than 33 billion in pending medical claims owned by National Health Insurance Fund NHIF. Story by Alphonse Mungahu. Please grab your copy and read that and more comprehensively. Now you can also check a story down there on page 13. Police gets not to hold where a case suspect longer. This has caused a lot of mixed reaction on social media, touching on matters of death of Kasipul Member of Parliament Ongondo Were. You can also check that story, a story by Alphonse Mungao. This there on the People Daily newspaper now. And we also see auction go ahead leaves Maliti TVET student in limbo. Now, EACC moved to court on grounds they had established contractor Ramagon Construction Company had no claim against the institution. You can also check that a story by Olivia Musembi. The fate of about 10,000 students of Metili Technical and Vocational Training Institute hangs in a balance after the High Court allowed a contractor to go on ahead and sell its property over a debt of 15 million Kenyan shillings. You can also check on that and read more comprehensively. Now, on matters of climate, state launches climate change action plan. A story by Zadok Angira. The government has launched a capacity building program for chiefs under the National Climate Change Security Resilience Program, aimed at integrating climate action into national security and grassroots governance. You can also check on that story, a story which I believe is of more significant. Moving on to page 15, gender equality and land ownership. You can also check that women owns less than 15% of land in sub-Saharan Africa, despite contributing almost half of its labor. And in Kenya, the disparity is even sharper in pastoral communities like Masai in Narok, where women are not allowed to own lands. You can also check that according to the custom story by James Joshua Ondeke. It is on page 15 of the People Daily newspaper. Now we move to page 16. Cynicism surrounds climate change talks before COP30. You can also check that story. Summit presidency wants to elevate grassroots climate solution at global level in bid to spur government to bolster national contribution. A story from Alberto Eleni. You can also check that and read of that story. And upon checking that, we have a lot more. Like we said earlier, there's a lot that is in the People Daily newspaper. Please don't hesitate. And as I said, People Daily newspaper is free. Just go grab a copy and read more comprehensively. Now, moving on to, we're going to jump some other stories which are there. We're going to jump other stories and bring you what is now getting into Business Hub on matters of business. Tough times ahead as revenue collection deepens. That is on matter of tax. Latest budget policy statement and finance bill 2025 shows revenue is expected to fall from the previous estimated 3.38 trillion to 3.32 trillion. Story by Samuel Karaoke. Please check and read more comprehensively of that story. We'll give you much of that story and you to take your time and read more. Why Kenyans should consider introducing dependency taxes. You can also check that. And down there we see Equity secures top wins at 2025 banking award as Mwangi named CEO of the year. That is the Equity Bank. James Mwangi CEO has been named CEO of the year 2025. You can also check that story and read. CBK rejects banks' claims on new loan pricing model. CBK rejects banks' claims on new loan pricing model. Now you can also check that on page 27. Regulators clarifies that a consultative paper released in April 2025 does not propose a return to interest rate caps. That's a story by Roland Otini. You can also check that and read. And also we see on page 27, Safaricom posts a slowdown in growth of Fuliza. Safaricom posts a slowdown growth on Fuliza. A story by Ian Okal. Now Safaricom posts a notable slowdown in Fuliza growth trajectory during the financial year ended March 31st, 2025, signaling potential inflection for country's popular overdraft facility. You can also check that story and read how Fuliza is doing in Kenya. Now we move to private sector, where we see private sector staff wins a big tax-free per diem goes up. That story is on page 28 of the People Daily newspaper. Check on that and also read. You learn that I'm now moving with speed. Now let me get back to page 10. Where we see tune of the day and the thoughts of the day and the of the day on page 10. Move with me to page 10 with the speed to page 10. Let us see what we have on page 10. In page 10 we see a lot going on in page 10. We are there. Yes, we are there. Check with me. Now we are going to take on the quotes of the day. The first quote of the day we are taking from is from SUPKEM National Chairman Hassan Olemadu. Olemadu is saying the nominee for the IEBC will be facing vetting in the National Assembly, and if anybody has a problem with any or all of them, they will have a chance to raise them. Now that is what the chairman of SUPKEM is saying. He's saying that leaders criticizing the nomination of the IEBC chairman and commissioners as nominated by the president should not be there, as these people wait to be vetted by the parliament before taking on their responsibility. So if anybody is having challenge with that, then they can wait for such time to come, then they can bring up the issues they have against the IEBC official nominated by the president. Another quote of the day is from Care Somalia County Director Umi Bubo. Says, without adequate food, health and nutrition program, the burden of disease and death among women and children in Somalia will rise sharply. You can also check out on that. And the last quote of the day is from Tourism CEO Rebecca Miano. Over time, tourists have been confined to beach and wildlife safaris product despite the existence of equally attractive and interesting sites available in Kenya. Now Miano is saying, Rebecca Miano is saying, over some time people have restricted matters to the tourism on beach and matters to the wildlife, while there are also other places which can attract tourists in the Republic of Kenya. Example, Timlichoinga in Migori County in Migori can also be a tourist attraction center, and many other places. You can check on that. Now, checking on the tune of the day, the cartoon of the day. What we see there on the cartoon of the day is that we have President William Ruto, image of President William Ruto, but on the background of the image we have rest in peace Gen Z, rest in peace Gen Z, rest in peace Gen Z, and all that. That is, we see that. And what the president is saying, as you can see, all persons who had disappeared or abducted during the Gen Z's protest were returned home. You can check on that. That is very funny, and that is something that we wouldn't want to. Now, moving on matters to do with the sports. For the lovers of sports, today I'm here to give you a brief of what is happening in the realms of sport. Now, beginning of what is in page 38 of the People Daily newspaper, relegation battle is tight with Sevilla FC, Girona FC still at risk. Now, that is in La Liga. The big teams, Sevilla and Girona, are at risk of being relegated. Several clubs remain at risk of suffering relegation down to La Liga. High promotion. You can also check that. There are so many stories. You can see Girona there is 15th position with 38 points, facing relegation. Sevilla is 16th with 38 points, and Deportivo Alves 17th with 35 points. CD Lignes 18th with 34 points, and UD Las Palmas 19th with 32 points, meaning any team can be relegated. So they are fighting on which team not to get relegated. You can also check that. And on page 37, we see Sri Lanka Olympic body bans De Silva. You can also check that. Now, former NOCL secretary under investigation for 2016 Rio Olympic funds. Story from Colombo on Tuesday. You can also check their former secretary of the National Olympic Committee of Sri Lanka, Maxwell De Silva, has been handed a 5-year suspension from holding any role within the organization following an investigation into allegations of governance and financial misconduct. You can also check that for the lovers of football, for the lovers of sports. And now, still on matters of sports, we see top 4 ready for final fight. Top 4 ready for final fight. Now you see crunch time looms as title hopeful face must win encounters. Now, that is Kenya Police, that is in Kenya Premier League, where we see Kenya Police, Tusker, Gor Mahia and Shabana will be in action as the Football Kenya Federation Premier League enters home stretch with 9 matches scheduled for Wednesday and Thursday across the countries. Remember, when it comes to Kenya Premier League, the league is very tight, and the 4 teams need to win all the games that they have in order to be the champion of this season. You can also check on that. And as you can see today, we have at 1 p.m. Ulinzi will host Posta Rangers as Talanta FC takes on Tusker, Mara Sugar takes on Bandari, MSIL takes on Sofapaka, and also we see Homeboys taking on Kenya Police, Shabana taking on Bidco, while FC Leopard takes on Gor Mahia at 4 p.m. You can also check that. Well, on Thursday we'll be having Kariobangi Sharks taking on KCB, Gor Mahia taking on Nairobi City Star. You can also check that, and all our schedule is there. And that is what we had for the sports. But still, let me take on the last page of the sports and give you what is on the last page of the sport. Very, very important. On page 39, the city of Barcelona lives and breathes football, not just on El Clasico day. You can also check on that. While on page 40, we see Brazil confirms Carlo Ancelotti as new head coach. Now Ancelotti is now going to head Brazil national team. Now bringing him to lead men's national team is more than strategic move. Brazilian FC president Rodriguez says. Now, for the lovers of football, Ancelotti now going to head the famous Brazil team. That's the Shamba Boys. As we move, thank you so much, my dear viewers, for keeping tuned to BTV, for keeping tuned to the vibrant morning. That is all we had for you for the day. You can also take your time and grab a copy of the People Daily newspaper and read more comprehensively. Thank you for keeping tuned to BTV. Thank you so much for following, for watching, and for your comments. Before we wind up, remember you can also reach us for the several services that we offer. One, we offer services such as branding of all kinds. You want to brand your facility, you want to brand your clothes, we do that.
We offer design, printing and branding services using large format printing,
services such as
offset
printing,
and
that
digital
is
printing.
general printing.
Our approach to printing,
ranging
graphics
from
design,
banners to
branding
all types
is
of printing,
with
which
quality
to us.
services
And
including
if you need
roll-up
advertising,
banners,
we offer
street
advertising
banners,
services at
teardrops,
BTV
reflective banners,
and also at
telescope
Blackman
banners,
Graphics
vehicle
Digitech,
branding,
and
road
also
signages,
for
mugs,
video and photography.
badges,
We
t-shirts,
offer studio, that
polo
is
shirts,
indoor studio
hoodies,
photography and outdoor
pens,
photography.
letterheads,
You can reach to us
business
as you
cards,
see them play on your
envelopes,
screen.
receipts,
At the same time, you can
brochures,
also reach to
flyers,
us for
posters,
live video coverage of event of any kind. Thank you so much for keeping tuned to BTV. Thank you so much for keeping tuned to Vibrant Morning. Till tomorrow the same time, have a lovely day. God bless you.
calendars, magazines, wedding cards, plastic ID cards, funeral programs, and many more. We also have indoor and outdoor videography, photography, and live streaming services. Visit us at our Migori Market, Onyinjo Bridge, Tendege Stage offices. Call or WhatsApp us through 0721 37 9308 or 0736 352224. Connect with us on YouTube and Facebook at Blackman TV. We are on TikTok as BTV Kenya and also Blackman Studios on Facebook as well. Blackman Digital Group.